The word that separates the good soil from every other soil in the parable of the sower means more than understand. Its root means to bring together, to assemble scattered pieces into one. You have done this. You have had a moment where things you carried separately for years suddenly clicked into a single picture. That moment has a Greek name, and it is the only word that makes the good soil good. Matthew 13, verse 23, one of only 2 parables Jesus himself sat down and decoded for his own disciples. Out of every parable in the Gospels, roughly 30 to 40 of them, this is one of the only 2 he explained. The traditional reading is not wrong. It is incomplete. The Greek underneath it carries a meaning your English Bible could not preserve, and the word your translation calls the wayside, the path where the seed never gets in, is the exact same Greek word used when Jesus says, "I am the way." Same word, same letters. Your Bible obscured the connection by translating it differently in each verse. The thorns that choke the word, your translation says cares of this world. That sounds like stress, like a full inbox, but the root of the Greek word means to divide. Your mind being pulled apart, not just busy. We are going to walk every soil, verse by verse. You will hear the Greek word hiding inside each one, and you will see a pattern no English Bible lets you see. By the end, you will have a practice built from one phrase in this passage. Under 5 minutes, it changes how you hear anything. There is something else. Mark chapter 4, verse 13. Jesus says something about this parable that he says about no other parable in the entire gospel record. He says, if you do not know this one, how will you know any of them? Any of them. That means this is not one parable among 30. This is the master key, and the word your Bible missed is the mechanism that makes it work. Most people hear this parable and they hear a children's story. A farmer throws some seed, some grows, some does not. Be the good soil. End of sermon. But Jesus gave this parable an entire chapter. He stopped midway to explain why he speaks in parables at all. He quoted Isaiah. He told his disciples their eyes were blessed for seeing what prophets longed to see and never did. And then he walked through every single soil and told them exactly what each one maps to on the inside. That is not a children's story, that is a blueprint. But before we get to the word in the good soil, we need to start where Jesus starts, on the road. Matthew 13, verse 4. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Your translation says wayside, a geographic detail, a spot beside a road where seed landed by accident. Most readers pass right over it. But the Greek word is Hodos, and Hodos is one of the most loaded words in the entire New Testament. Hodos means a road, a way, a path. It appears over 100 times across the New Testament. Its meaning also includes a way of life, a course of conduct, but it carries enormous weight in the verses surrounding this parable. John 14, verse 6, I am the Hodos, the way. Acts chapter 9, verse 2, the earliest Christians did not call themselves Christians. They were called followers of the Hodos, the way. The same Greek word that names the divine path names the hardened ground where the seed fails. That connection is real, and it is a connection your English translation obscures by using different words in each verse. Now ask the question the passage is asking. How does a footpath harden? Repeated traffic, the same route walked over and over until nothing new can get through the surface. Foot after foot after foot, packing the earth tighter with each pass. In this reading, the path corresponds to awareness compacted by habit. The mind so grooved into its usual track that the word lands on the surface and never gets inside. Verse 19 confirms it. When anyone heareth the word of the kingdom, and understandeth it not, then cometh the wicked one, and catcheth away that which was sown in his heart. In his heart, not his field, not his plot of land, Jesus placed the seed on the kardia, the interior. This was never about geography. You have had seasons where everything bounced off you. Sermons, books, conversations, nothing stuck. Not because you were bad or unspiritual, because the surface was compacted by years of the same track. Seeing that the text calls this a hodos, a worn track, means you can name what was happening. The word was still being sown. The sower never stopped scattering. The next time nothing gets in, you will recognize the condition of the ground, not the failure of the seed. Now look at the rocky ground. Verses 5 and 6, the Greek word petrodes means rock-like. Not a field with scattered rocks, but ground that is bedrock with a thin layer of soil on top. Everything looks viable on the surface. The seed sprouts fast because shallow soil warms quickly. Impressive growth, immediate joy. The response looks genuine because it is genuine, but it is shallow. But verse 21, he hath not root in himself, en heauto, in himself. The failure is not circumstantial, it is interior. And then thlipsis arrives. The Greek means pressure, affliction. The root thlibo means to press, to squeeze. That is what the rocky soil produces. The path is too hard, the rock is too shallow, but the thorns are different. In the thorns, the seed actually grows. It takes root, it pushes upward. Something else kills it. And the Greek word for what kills it does not mean what your Bible tells you it means. Matthew 13, verse 22. He also that received seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches, choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. Your translation says care, the care of this world. That sounds like stress, busyness, having too many things on your plate. And that is the reading most sermons deliver. Slow down, simplify your life, make room for God. And there is value in that reading. Simplicity has always been part of the path. But the Greek word is merimna, and merimna does not mean what your translation suggests. Merimna means anxiety, care. That is the standard meaning. But the word comes from the verb merizo, which means to divide, to separate. The standard word references confirm this root meaning directly. Thayer's traces merimna to the concept of a mind drawn in different directions, not a heavy mind, a divided one. Your Bible says cares of this world, but the root of the Greek word is merizo, to divide. The image underneath the word is a mind being pulled apart. That changes the weight of the verse. And Merimna is not alone. It is paired with a second thorn, apate ploutou, the deceitfulness of riches. Apate means deception, deceit, a misleading, not force, but enticement. So the passage names a two-pronged attack. One thorn divides your attention. The other thorn deceives you about what matters. Together they sympnegi the word. The Greek means to choke, to crowd out. The word was growing inside you, something else grew faster. Mark chapter 4, verse 19, adds a third thorn that Matthew does not mention. The desires for other things entering in. The Greek is he peri ta loipa epithemiai, the cravings for the remaining things, everything else that competes for your inner space. Mark is saying the list of competing pulls is open-ended. Luke chapter 8, verse 14, adds one more detail. The thorny soil does not merely become unfruitful. Luke uses the word telesphorousin. It means to bring to maturity, to complete. Luke says the thorny ground brings no fruit to maturity. The growth started, the fruit formed, it just never finished. This is the most painful soil in the entire parable, because it is the closest to success. This is correspondence, not medical claim. Map, not prescription. We are decoding a text, not prescribing a treatment. You know this feeling. You hear something true and feel it land. You carry it for a day, maybe two, and within a week, it has dissolved. Not because you rejected it, because 17 other things crowded in and choked it before it could bear fruit. Seeing that the text's word traces back to merizo, a mind pulled apart, means the issue was never weakness, it was fragmentation. The logos was real, the seed was alive. What failed was the ground's ability to hold it against the competition. The next time you feel that pull in competing directions, you will recognize what is happening. Not because someone diagnosed you, because the text named what was already yours. All four soils hear the same word, same sower, same seed, same logos of the kingdom. So what makes the fourth soil different? One Greek word, and it appears 5 times in this single passage. Not twice, not 3 times, 5. Matthew 13, verse 23. But he that received seed into the good ground is he that heareth the word, and understandeth it, which also beareth fruit, and bringeth forth, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. Understandeth. Everyone reads that word and moves on. Understand. Simple. Either you get the message or you do not. It sounds binary. It sounds passive. The word underneath it is doing something the translation could not preserve. The Greek is Syniemi, Strong's 4920, from syn, meaning together, and hiemi, meaning to send. The full meaning includes to understand, to comprehend, to perceive. Those are standard meanings confirmed by every major word reference. But the root action underneath all of them is specific, to bring together, not passive comprehension, active assembly, the mind gathering what is scattered into one coherent knowing. That is the root action the English word understand flattens. And here is the pattern no one shows you. Syniemi appears in verse 13, in verse 14, in verse 15, in verse 19, and in verse 23, 5 times in 20 verses. No other Greek word for understanding is repeated in this passage. Not ginosko, which appears once in verse 11, not oida. Only syniemi is used 5 times. Matthew made this one word the structural hinge of the entire parable. The path soil and the good soil named syniemi directly. The path fails because it is absent. The good soil succeeds because it is present. And the framing verses 13 through 15 wrap the entire parable in this one word. Matthew built the passage around it. Verse 15 makes it even clearer. This is the Isaiah quotation Jesus places at the center of his explanation. For this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest at any time they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and should understand with their heart, and should be converted, and I should heal them. The word is synosin, same root, and Jesus places it in the kardia, the heart. This is not intellectual comprehension, it is heart-level integration, assembly that happens deeper than the head. You have had this moment. Scattered things you carried for years suddenly clicked into one picture. Fragments you thought were separate turned out to be parts of the same whole. That click, that instant of assembly, is what the Greek calls syniemi. The text is not describing a talent some people have and others do not. It is describing a capacity activated by the logos itself, the word of the kingdom that was sown into you. You did not manufacture the seed, but the bringing together is yours to do. And now that you have the word, you cannot unhear it. Every time you read understandeth in this passage, you will hear bring together underneath it. One word, 5 appearances, the hinge of the entire parable. But here is what changes everything. If the 4 soils are not 4 types of people, but 4 states you move through, then syniemi is not a trait you were born with. It is something you practice. You were taught this parable was a sorting machine. 4 types of people. Pick your box. The hard heart, the shallow heart, the crowded heart, the good heart. Most of us left church carrying a quiet suspicion about which box we belonged in. And most of us suspected it was not the good soil. But Jesus plants the seed in the kardia, singular, interior. He is not sorting 4 populations, he is mapping 4 conditions of one field, your field. Look at what the Greek revealed across this passage. Hodos, the worn track, awareness compacted by the repetition of habitual patterns. Merimna, the divided ground, attention fragmented across competing poles, the mind drawn in different directions before the word can take hold. And syniemi, the active gathering, the capacity to bring together what is scattered. The 3 words form a single map: compaction, division, assembly. And that map is not about other people, it is about you. It is a diagnostic you can run on your own inner ground anytime the word stops landing. The sower keeps sowing. The question is always the ground. Luke chapter 8 verse 15 adds what Matthew does not, but that on the good ground are they, which in an honest and good heart, having heard the word, keep it, and bring forth fruit with patience. The Greek for patience is hypomonei. It means steadfast endurance, remaining under. Luke is telling you that even good soil requires sustained attention to produce fruit. The good ground is already called good. Luke uses the word keo, but it still needs hypomonei to bear fruit. The endurance is about completing the harvest, not just receiving the seed. The thorny ground received the seed too. It started growing. What it lacked was the patience to finish. Not a single moment of reception, a sustained season of completion. This is correspondence, not medical claim. Map, not prescription. We are decoding a text, not prescribing a treatment. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. That line appears at the close of the parable before Jesus decodes it. It is not a casual sign-off. It is an invitation to cross from hearing into assembly, from receiving sound to bringing it together. You are not one soil. You have been all 4. The passage does not ask which soil you are. It asks which state you are in right now, and whether you will bring together what you have been hearing. That question is not rhetorical. It is diagnostic. and the answer belongs to you alone. And if Syniemi is something you practice, a bringing together you can do with intention, then the passage itself gives you a way to start, not because the capacity is yours alone, because the seed was sown, and the ground can learn to hold it. This practice is built from one word, Syniemi, Matthew 13 verse 23, to bring together. It takes 3 minutes or less, no equipment, no apps, no guide, just the word and the capacity it names. First, sit with one thing you have been hearing lately, a passage, a conversation, a pattern in your life that keeps surfacing. Something that has been sitting on the surface of your mind without taking root. Name it silently. Do not analyze it yet. Do not try to solve it. Just identify the single piece that has been sitting there waiting. Second, ask one question. What does this connect to? Let the mind do what Syniemi describes. Bring the piece together with something you already carry. Do not force the connection. Do not manufacture an insight. Wait for the assembly. It will come when the pieces are ready to meet. Third, when the connection comes, even if it is partial, speak it out loud in one sentence. That is the fruit. Not a finished understanding, not a sermon, not a theology. The first evidence of bringing together. The 100-fold, the 60, and the 30 all start with the first assembly. There's a second practice if you want it. This one is built from Hodos, Matthew 13 verse 4, the worn track. Take one passage you have heard your entire life, one piece of worn track thinking you have never once questioned. Read it one time with a single question in mind. What if this does not mean what I was told? Then sit with whatever surfaces. You are not looking for an answer. You are breaking the path. You are interrupting the traffic pattern that compacted the ground in the first place. One reading with a real question does more to soften the Hodos than 100 readings on autopilot. That is what breaking the path looks like. Not finding a new path, cracking the one you are already standing on. The sower scatters the same seed on every surface. The same logos of the kingdom falls on the compacted track, the hidden bedrock, the divided ground, and the deep soil alike. The seed does not change. The sower does not change. What changes is the condition of the ground it lands on. The practice is not about finding better seed. It is about preparing the ground to hold what has already been sown. He who has ears to hear, let him hear.